Francis, you go. Producer, I mean, our moderator. Yep.
Welcome our viewers to this program, The Conversation. In 2016, lawyers and teachers went on strike over what was described at that time as marginalization. At that time, the Cameroon Civil Society Consortium, the platform through which this collective anger of teachers, lawyers, and other unions canalized their anger, was headed by Dr. Fontem Liba as Secretary General and Barrister Nkongo as President. After the failure of negotiations in Bamenda on the 13th of January 2017, the regime in Cameroon moved to arrest the leaders of the consortium 4 days later. Dr. Fontem and Barrister Nkongo were abducted and whisked off to Yaoundé, where they would be detained and stand trial before a military tribunal for trumped up charges, some of which are punishable by the penalty of death. 5 years later, we have put together some respectable gentlemen, citizens of Southern Cameroon, to discuss with Dr. Fontem Liba the events of the 2017 and their aftermath. Together with our guest, we will explore the main issues that surround the Southern Cameroon's liberation struggle, sharing perspectives and showing the way forward for the revolution. So I want to welcome our guest analyst today, Dr. Edmond Folefak and Mr. Ato Mucha, and welcome all of you, including Dr. Fontem Liba, to this program, The Conversation. Before we proceed, I would do a small presentation of all our guests here present so that we can go into the conversation and try to elucidate, explain, and guarantee a good viewership of what this program, The Conversation, is going to look like. So we have Dr. Fontem, who holds a PhD in applied linguistics from the University of Ibadan. He has a rich record of activism and leadership at student, professional, and administrative level. Until his arrest and subsequent exile to the United States, he was a professor of applied linguistics, language pedagogy, and communication. He also taught and supervised master's and doctoral students. He was the founding Secretary General of the consortium, which he cumulated with his position as SG, Secretary General of the University Teachers Union. Currently, he is the Secretary General of the Southern Cameroons Alliance. Doctor, once again, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We also have Dr. Edmond Folefak, who is medical oncologist at James Center Cancer Center, Associate Program Director of the Fellowship Training Program, Hematology and Oncology. He is educator as Assistant Professor, Associate Professor of Medicine, Clinical Research, the Ohio State University, Columbus, Ohio. Dr. Edmond is also patron of the PLO Lumumba Foundation. We also have here present with us Mr. Ato Mucha. He is a political activist and analyst. He is also the moderator of the famous Southern Cameroon's International Town Hall and also a proponent of the independence of the Southern Cameroons. Comrades, we want to welcome all of you who are watching us from all the angles of the earth, and especially from ground zero in the Southern Cameroons. We are going to proceed with this program, The Conversation, and we're going to start off with a question, an introductory question to our comrades, Dr. Folefak and Mr. Ato Mucha. You followed developments right up to the moment of the arrest As people who knew Dr. Fontaine before, were you surprised? Were you surprised at his involvement? Dr. Edmond.
Well, thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, fellow panelists. Thank you. You people call him Dr. Fontem Niba, but I call him Pintem. We go quite a long way back, and I'm sure that Mr. Mucha would also call him the same. So we have been in the trenches of this fight for injustice way back in our university days, our young days, or in Nigeria, under the auspices of the then, National Union of Cameroon Students called NUCS. So I know Pintem, as would like to call him, he from the University of Calabar, where he was, president of NUCS in Calabar. We used to be at different conventions, had very, involved deliberations to when he was, I believe, at the University of Ibadan, then when he became national president of the Cameroon Union of Students, NUCS in Nigeria. And so, I mean, when I got here and I heard that he was part of the the people fighting injustice, it wasn't a surprise to me. It would have been a surprise to me if I went there and I didn't see his name. I knew him. I think the fight in him is, just as they say, it is not the size of the dog, but the size of the fight in the dog that matters actually. So this is such a true, freedom fighter. So I wasn't really surprised. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. I didn't know if the moderator of the show, Chairman Frank, had something to say before I come in. I want to thank the panelists and the moderator for having me on this show. To the question about being surprised by Dr. Fontaine's political evolution, no, I am not surprised. Like Dr. Edmond just said, we have known each other. We are probably third or fourth generations of family descendants and relationships. So I have known Dr. Fontaine all his life. I have seen him evolve and grow politically. I was at the University of Calabar with him when we were very, very involved in student campus politics during the elections in '92, which was stolen by the CPDM, and Southern Cameroonians were, really peaking into active political activity. We did it together, and he has been on that trajectory. So, brief, no, I'm not surprised, or I wasn't surprised at the direction his political career evolved.
It looks like the moderator, the chair, Francis, got ejected from the screen, Mr. Producer.
Yeah, thank you very much, gentlemen, for the very kind and very complimentary remarks that you have made with respect to our days and the activities that we undertook together. I think that, generally speaking, our discussions, what is happening today, was always a sub-theme, was always a subtext of most of the things that we did. And I'm not surprised that things have evolved this way. And somehow when we reconnected out here, while I was still at home, and eventually out here in the diaspora, I knew that the spirit had come alive. And I want to thank you both and other friends who are not opportune to be part of this show for the the support and the continued commitment to the liberation of our people, and for ensuring that the same spirit of honesty, transparency, and hard work that we had when we were young continues to dominate our lives and prevail in our relationships.
You come out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frank. One of the things that I always want people to know about the role that some of us have played in this liberation struggle, and I think I share it a lot with my colleagues in the town hall and some in the alliance, and I let people realize that one of the things that that people like us were starters, people like us were precursors, and we came to open the gate. But the experience that I have gone through really doesn't matter very much now, especially because the conflict has since evolved and many people have died. And the condition under which our people live now is so troubling. And I tell people every day that for those of us who were lucky to have escaped the wrath of that regime, I think we need to do everything to ensure that those who are left behind have an easy way out. We can do it. Now, my stay in prison, and I'm going to say it because I want to reflect a bit on what those who are still there are going through, and call on our people, the Southern Cameroonian community around the world, to make sure that we give priority to these people who are in detention, make sure that we give them the assistance that is needed, and make sure that even the refugees and those who are internally displaced, our humanitarian assistance program has to be vibrant. Now, living in a prison that was living among 5,000 people in a prison that was meant for 800 people is not an easy thing. It is not an easy thing. I think at one point it became necessary for me to submit to God, but I knew that I had a very strong and abiding faith that I was going to come out. But the fear among the people outside was also a challenge, because when they read the charges against us and read some of our profiles in the news, Isa Chiroma read. I was entering the Kondengi one day, and they had just finished. I heard my profile being read in the TV in the prison director's office, and everybody was watching the news in the rest of the prison. So by the time I entered my cell, the news had already preceded me. They had already gone ahead of me, that the man we are just hearing about him is coming. So as soon as they opened the gate to the section of the prison in which I was supposed to live, people came out. It was like everybody came out to see, and everybody was expecting to see a very big, able-bodied man, but they saw a minuscule fellow walk in, and I was quite relaxed and just dragging myself in, and people were kind of surprised. They said no. Some were saying no, ce n'est pas lui, ce n'est pas lui, c'est lui, ce n'est pas lui, c'est lui. So it is when people started coming and peeping in my cell, all the prisoners were coming and peeping and asking my cellmates, est-ce que c'est lui? And they were saying, yes, c'est lui, c'est lui, c'est lui. For most people, they did not know I was speaking French. I could understand French. So I actually could hear the things they were saying. But the life in detention at Kondengi prison, because I lived in Kondengi Central Prison and I was eventually moved to Kondengi Principal Prison. The life in prison is not an easy life. That is why I continue to appeal that we need to do programs that can continue to provide food, medical assistance, and the basic needs of our fellow citizens who are detained in those, because I call them dungeons. My heart goes out to Penn Terence, Mancho BBC, with whom I switched places when I was going to principal prison. Mancho BBC came to Central and took my place. So and he took everything that I had, and I went there and I took everything that he had, because I think he had been told that I would be the one to take over from him. So he left his things and just came and took mine. So my heart goes out to them, to all the those who are detained innocently and those who, out of their courage and bravery, found themselves there. I have a strong and abiding faith, and I believe that they will make it, and that our people will make it, and that at a given time, we will all be a free people. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being brief on this. We know it's a huge topic, and we cannot dissect it in a few minutes. So thank you very much, Dr. Edmond. Do you have something as a follow up on this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think as again, Peter has said, he knows. I always tell them that they are the ones. He's now a graduate of the University of Freedom. And that's for me, the dungeons are the universities where you go to learn the real, the basics of what it means to really fight for freedom. And if it doesn't break you, you come out a reformed person and you start thinking. The good thing about jail, though, and that the dictators have never really known, is that when they throw you in jail, they can build the gates of jail, and they can jail your body, but they can't jail your mind. They can't jail your brain. You think. And sometimes with the benefit of solitude, you get confined there, then you can begin to reflect and see sometimes really what is the vanity of life, the vanity of materialism. It tells you that a lot of the time, sometimes we really concentrate on thinking about the kind of clothes we want to wear, the kind of houses that we want to live in. So at the time in a jail, sometimes it offers people a time to really much more cultivate your mind, think more about what really is important to mankind, which is really that what your soul, and think about what your soul is really made of. And I know Fontem has just talked about Penn Terence and Mancho BBC, but we know as of now we have thousands and thousands and thousands. That's at the last count, probably more than maybe about across the odd prisons. Those that we can account for will probably be at the minimum about 4,000 across those dungeons in La Republique. And I will use that to also urge, we know, some amongst us, the biggest, the most pronounced, the most renowned of our prison prisoners are our Naira 10, led by Ayok Tabe and all our comrades who were abducted in Nigeria and are locked up in those dungeons. So, and we use this opportunity to extend, our support for them and tell them to hold their head high. But for those people who are outside here thinking that the university, the prison, it's a picnic, it's a holiday, it's a vacation, they got to think again and see what these people really are going through on our behalf. These are not common criminals. They didn't steal. They actually stood there and to fight for us, and they are in jail for all of us. And because each of them is in jail, we are all in jail, and that's how we must see it. And so we're happy that Pitem is happy that some of the people are out of jail, but we must not relent. The conditions that led them to go to jail have worsened, and we must not relent. And those are not actually jail. Those are dungeons that La Republique is keeping our people. And we must not relent. We must see our prisoners free, but we must go home. If we don't go home, really, we cannot even be talking about, we cannot even contemplate freedom. You cannot sing the songs of freedom in hell. It just doesn't happen.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much, Dr. Edmond. Mr. Atto, I want us to digress to another level, another interpretation of what happened to Dr. Fontaine. You know, we understand and we know too well that when he was released, there was a period of silence, a great period of silence. He went silent when people, Southern Cameroonians, were expecting to hear from him. Is there any wisdom in silence? And before you answer this, I also want to say, you haven't known him. How did you interpret, how did you live this period of his silence?
I mean, I haven't been to prison, but you know, I have read a lot of biographies of other leaders who have been to prison and who have come out of prison. When you go into prison and when you come out, the circumstances, the reasons, and the events that led to you going into prison and the evolution of what has been happening outside, even if you were informed, dictate what you do when you leave prison, I presume, based on reading. I think what Dr. Fontaine did was very smart. The whole idea of putting of political imprisonment is to break the spirit, not just the body of the political actor. It's to break their spirit, to stop them from being who they are. When you come out, which is what Dr. Fontaine did, the first thing you want to do is to introspect, is to find yourself. Your spirit may not be broken, but you have to rejuvenate certain internal aspects of your being. Secondly, you have to take the temperament of the environment in which you are. Your release may not necessarily be freedom. Your release may be a setup by the dictators to further break you when they realize that they couldn't break you or break your spirit in prison. It may be an attempt to actually eliminate you and put it on somebody else. You have to look at many things. Where are the people? What is the psychic? You have to think of your family, who next to you, or even sometimes more than you, suffer psychologically and spiritually your time in prison. Dr. Fontaine had young children who did not understand what was happening to their father, where he was. Would they ever see him again? There are many layers to take care of. And the first thing is not to go in front of cameras or feed the media. The media is there to report, to make stories, to earn a living. But you don't become their a sacrificial lamb for them to have something to write cover stories. You have to take care of you, your family, your colleagues, the evolution of events, the psychic of the environment. Where are the people? Are they still with you? Are they still in this? The other members of your group, what is their security situation? There are so many layers. And I think what Dr. Fontaine did was the smartest thing. Instead of feeding into popularism and a cheap gossip, or feed the media with what the media wanted, he had to take care of the more important analysis and multifaceted, complex situations. He left other colleagues in jail. How would that affect them? What was the situation of his kids? So I think he did the best thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ato. I think your answer has been very intelligent. And I was planning to ask Dr. Fontem again why he's silent. I wouldn't anymore.
Yes,
because
I think he has done a psychological analysis of what was going on in my mind when I left prison. I think that
exactly. He's analyzed it with an angle. Exactly. He's done it with an angle he's taken an angle where any person would rest at peace. So let's move on. Let's move on. Dr. Fontem, you finally moved to the USA and you met another reality, a new reality, different from the ground. And I know you've been a man who's been fighting for justice, for peace, trying to unify people. And I think your trademark has been that spirit to continue to see people unite for a common goal. You carried out so many initiatives while in the USA. Now I want you to not just of telling us what you have done, but to ask you, do you still believe in unity, in bringing people together? Are you still a unifier?
Yes, Frank, thanks very much. Let me say that the picture that we had of the diaspora before I left home was quite different. And we did not understand and we did not see the internecine, the fratricidal quarrels that existed between leaders and communities here in the United States and in Europe. And eventually, when some of us got here, we realized that people were paying allegiance to individuals and not to the cause. Whereas at home, people pay allegiance to the cause and not to individuals. And when I, in retrospect, when I look at some of the things that my activism and as a leader in the different spheres that I have involved myself in was able, some of the things I was able to do with my colleagues, some of the things that we were able to do as as a corporate group, we were able to achieve those things thanks to unity. All the things that, even whether as a leader or as a backroom man, we have been able to achieve in any group I found myself, we did it with unity. I believe in the strength of the group working together, holding hands, discussing the problem, sharing responsibilities, and forging ahead collectively. Now, if you don't know your enemy, you will not be able to fight him. And the fragmentation in our midst is playing to the advantage of the enemy. And so long as people want to do things their own way, so long as people think that there are 20 different ways of doing the same thing, of achieving the same goal, we will never be able to converge on the same spot. So I still believe in unity. I've seen a very high degree of selfishness, but I've also seen an amazing degree of ignorance among some of our people. Because when you see somebody calling somebody your excellency and chastising others for not endorsing a lie or for not being taking part in a rogue activity, I ask myself, I say, I talk to people every day at home, and I have friends who cut across different professions, and before I came here, I had a number of people with whom I was talking, even though I was not talking publicly. And I felt that some of the information that I had gotten from even people at high levels in government could be shared with some of the leaders of political organizations abroad. I believed that that information could help to, reorient our thinking, reorganize us, and help us to be able to forge ahead in in a more strategic manner. But every attempt to put our people together, every time they came together, each person had something else they were looking for, not the collective good. But I think that there is a certain message that needs to be uh, put out there so that those let the buyer beware. They in commerce they say caveat emptor. Let the buyer beware. That let all these politicians in Southern Cameroon beware that nobody is going to march into Southern Cameroon as a president or as a leader. Southern Cameroon is going to undergo a transition, and the people are going to choose their leader. So anybody who thinks that he's not going to collaborate, we will flag you out, and at the appointed time, our people will sanction you, because the disunity that is prevalent amongst among the politicians somehow accounts for the continuous slaughter that La République makes of our people. If people could just talk to each other, plan together, strategize, and share areas and spheres of influence, so that people don't all try to crowd in one place, and people don't all try to go and see the same person. You have an international structure or personality that can be useful to our system. Some people spend $3,000 to get there, others spend $5,000 to get there, and at the end of the day, you see 3 or 4 different groups of people going to see the same person or going to have a meeting in the same structure. And at the end of the day, we are duplicating our effort, wasting money which could have been used to do other things. So I think that we need to migrate away from this ridiculous and scandalous way of doing things and of assuming that we are more than the average Southern Cameroonian. Many people need to come, get off their high horses, and hold their hands together, whether as leaders or as of political organizations or whatever. I think the earlier our people realize, our politicians realize, that it is ultimately the people of Southern Cameroon who will choose, who will lead them, the better for them.
Thank you, Doctor. And I think you even went deeper to the question, and that's fine. Certain of the things that you have talked about, we're going to peruse over them. Hello. And try to see how we can together come to a kind of consciousness, a collective consciousness that would lead us out of this impasse. I personally believe that there is great need for us to come together, because when the enemy sees that we are not together, as you have rightly said, they go and kill our people. But if we are together, we become a fence. We are not just a defense, we become a fence, and it is impossible for them to penetrate. All right, Comrade Dr. Edmond, this talk of unity, unifying people, collaboration, and so on has been a common talk for the past 3 years. How far have we gone? Do you believe we've come to the stage wherein this must become something we stampede our feet on and make it happen?
Yes. Thank you for that very important question. I think, when we talk about unity, people need to understand what we are asking. We're asking about unity of purpose, right? We're not asking people to align behind one individual. That is, people in their different constructs with whatever they have now, their different groupings. We're not asking people to break down their groups and join other groups. No, but there is something that is common to the people of Southern Cameroon. And what is common to the people of Southern Cameroon starts by that. When we say unity of purpose, for what and for what, asking yourself for what. And that is, we have to define our goals. If you remember when our friend, good friend, Professor Piero Lumumba was at one of our earliest town hall meetings when I came on with him. And the first thing is, have you identified your enemy? And then have you identified your purpose, right? So in a way, what Ambazonians need to think about is, if our goal is freedom, if our goal is, even if your goal is independence, you got to get to realize that even if it's independence and there are 10 counties in Ambazonia, you could control 12. But if the last one is not free, Ambazonia is not free. And you got to think about it and say, even amongst these people, the Ambazonians themselves, I mean, among your people, what can each one of us best do in order to lead us, to help us get to our destination? So we get a framework. Then we all know that in order to become an independent country, in view of becoming a free country, we need to get La Republique out of our territory. And if that is the goal that we have, then you realize that each time that you are fighting your brother, you are actually defeating your own, you're only fighting against your own interests. That's the reason why we have to be united. And then again, around a common goal. And that common goal is fighting this enemy. For the people who want to be involved in politics, create your political parties, run your political organizations, if you want to call them as such. But can you at least have all of us actually to unite behind certain ideas, certain core ideas, which is, in this case, can we all unite our forces against La Republique? And the answer is yes. Is it imperative? That is so imperative. We just cannot do without that. And so, to me, I think that is the critical thing. And sometimes I'll get so very, you get just at the time when you're getting almost to the point of despair, you see some ray of hope where you were not really, where you had thought initially you were going to have a problem. In this case, I'm seeing the unity on the ground from the folks, from the fighters on the ground, because the thing that was actually dividing, that the reason why the divisiveness in the diaspora was that very destructive, it was not only that it actually led to an apathy in terms of the funds, collection of funds, or actually contributing our ideas to develop to fighting against this monster of La Republique. But it was the fact that many people even thought that everything was worth it that made you eliminate your so-called competitor. And in this case, these people actually had the audacity of actually, taking this division and sowing division amongst our young men and women fighting on the ground, which has led to, unfortunately, to the death of so many of them. And so if I'm seeing that unity from the folks on the ground who have now understood that their, their fortunes are tied together, that they are only going to get to Buea together, or they will all sink, because some will not get to Buea while others don't. We either get to Buea as one, or we shall all perish. That is the message. And therefore, the people of Ambazonia have got to look. This reminds me, our situation reminds me a little bit of the Greek city-state back in the days, because of the advent of democracy, where each one of them, whether it was Athens, whether it was Sparta, or any number of they fought as independent states, but to the extent that they fought as independent states, they were conquered. But it took almost the burning of Athens by Persia for the people of Greece to really decide that there was strength in unity, and they could still keep their Greek city-states the way they were back then, but then unite under the common banner of Greece to fight the monster at the time that was Persia to them. And that's exactly what they did. And guess what? That ushered in democracy to the rest of the world, which are the fruits that we have enjoyed now for many, many, many years. And so we have to really ask our people If you truly desirous of freedom, really realize that you cannot do it alone. We have to get united. Again, unite around a common purpose. And that purpose is freedom. That purpose is identifying our enemy, which is La Republique, and not ourselves. That is the goal. We can talk about what other steps can be taken. I mean, what other steps? Some of us, we've thought about this, but because of the purpose of this program and the interest of time, we will not go into so much more details, but these are things that need to be done. Anybody who says otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. They are self-serving. They want us to replace tyranny with another form of tyranny, which will not happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. And actually, we are going to talk a little about some of the steps. It's very important, because without which we will end up only talking and not giving solutions. That's why I want to bring in Comrade Arthur. I believe that communication is very important, and that it is also, time has come also for us to start talking to people, start talking to each other, start breaking the fences and moving into the camps of others to make peace, to talk peace. Comrade, do you think this is possible now?
Yes, it has always been possible, but we have to be very clear that we will not get everybody, like Dr. Fontem has said, like Dr. Edmond has said. Some people are in this for self-righteousness, self-aggrandizement, self-profiteering. And it is very common in every society, whether they are free, whether they're peaceful, whether they're fighting. So we should not focus on trying to get everybody. And those who are in this self-serving, they would be very loud, and they would raise their decibels, and they would try to get the attention, because that is how they suck. They are like a tick that once it latches, it just keeps sucking and grows bigger. So we have to get together and find those people who are interested. Like Dr. Edmond said, we don't have to all agree. We must just have unity of purpose and communicate to the critical mass. The subconscious is a very, very complex thing, which even science has not quite understood. And there is no vacuum to be allowed. Once you allow the noisemakers and the negative energy and the decibels to fill in that vacuum, a lot of people get lost, because they want to believe one thing, but their subconscious keeps getting hammered by conflicting signals. And as Dr. Fontem said, there is either apathy or there is total confusion. And if you say it enough, if you tell the lies long enough, those people begin to believe. So I think it is for those who have this struggle at heart, those who, like Dr. Edmond said, are fighting for freedom, those who, like Dr. Fontem, have gone through hell and back, those who have lost their lives. I think it is for us to find a way to raise our voices and also begin to push out the falsehood and manipulation by the gamblers and the con people and the manipulators. It's all about who is controlling the narrative. Unfortunately, for a lot of us who want to do or go by what is right, we have obligations and responsibilities. All of us on this panel now are full-time head of household earning individuals. And there are those people who don't do anything, who don't work, who haven't worked for the past 5 years, who have seen this as an opportunity to enrich themselves. And so while you and I and us are at work for 8 hours, they spend those 8 hours misrepresenting and filling that vacuum. And so it is hard, but we have to keep educating our people. We have to keep educating them. It's like religion, right? Some of us go to church once a week on Sundays, but we don't forget the message and we carry it inside us regardless of the other societal distractions. And then we go back next Sunday and we are renewed in faith. And we come back and we spend another week with societal distractions, many of which go contrary to the doctrines we learn in church once a week. So it doesn't mean that the pastor or the priest is in our ear every day. So we have to keep educating our people and conscientize them to the point where we get that critical mass. We don't need everybody. We just need that critical mass to keep this struggle on the right tracks.
Yes, it's a discussion I would like Dr. Fontem to enter also, because we know that a community, a society, a group, a movement built on the foundations of lies, is set for ruin, is set for disintegration, is set for destruction. We see it right before our eyes. Many of us here have been crying for truth to be told to our people, to have a narrative that can bring our people together and not divide our people, to have a narrative that would resound with our fighters down, so that they can stand together and not kill each other, not kidnapping each other. When such a foundation is not based on the essence of reality, but on the essence of manipulation, it is bound to fail. I think, Dr. Fontem, please, can you highlight us on the happenings, on the things that are happening currently in front of us, before us?
Yes. Before I go into that, Mr. Frank, I want to say that our people have been grossly mistreated, abused, and when you look at the length of time we took to educate our people before the 2016 protests began and the kind of support they gave, you realize that we used cold logic and showed them what they stood to gain by joining us in this fight. We did not use guns, we did not force them, and we did not have camps. We did not have people to support. Everybody was for the struggle. Now, enter the politicians, traders of snake oil, and all kinds of charms. Some people came, they said they had been in the struggle for 30 years. Others said they had been in the struggle for 32 years. For God's sake, 30 years is the time of a career. If after 30 years you have not achieved anything, it is time to retire. It is time to retire. And our people need to know that. So for anybody who has been around for 30 years and has not achieved anything, he had better start re-examining himself and finding out what went wrong or what he did not get right. Now, when you look at the kinds of lies that we have experienced in the course of this liberation struggle, we have lies that have to do with slander, lies that have to do with slander, cooking up stories to denigrate others. If I think that Dr. Edmond has credibility and that he does not, and I sense that he does not agree with the wrong things that I'm doing, I quickly send people to the social media to wear a tag on him, denigrate him, and pull him down. That is what has been going on. And in the course of trying to bring the different political organizations together, try to bring their leaders together to collaborate, I experienced that firsthand, where I met with, and I'm going to call names, like I met with Dr. Sako in the evening. That is, first of all, it took him about 2 months to receive me. when he knew I was coming and I indicated that I would like to meet with him and to discuss a number of things, I had significant information that was relevant to our liberation struggle. Sako boycotted me for 2 months. And eventually, when I met with him, I was very, very tactical. The questions he asked me, I deliberately gave him some information that was not accurate. And the next day, I heard it in the social media, and he was the only person to whom I had given that information, which he now tried to use to denigrate me and to slander me. So you now see the kind of, that destructive spirit, the destructive spirit that has come into the struggle. Now, there is also the formation of rackets. I say this in the interest of our people because at some point when we raised some of these issues, it became as if we wanted to take power. Let me tell you, my colleagues, that if there is any power, it is the people at home who wield the power. I would have stayed at home to wield the power. But and it is also important to realize your role. Each person should realize his role in this liberation struggle. Some of us normally are supposed to be in the back room. And if you see us coming out today, it is because we have been shouting and nobody is willing to do what we know should be done. And that is the only reason why we have come out. And you cannot force somebody to contribute in a liberation struggle as if he is serving an individual. That is the disaster that is unfolding in this liberation struggle. It has become some people's thing. And if they cannot have it that way, then you are an agent of La République. They have called a number of us agents of La République because we have disagreed with fundamental issues that make us look ridiculous. And you cannot be an educated man and you do certain things. It makes you look stupid in public. And so many of those things are being done. So the foundation, the Bible says that if the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? The foundation of the struggle as it was laid out here in the diaspora has a problem. Some people got into it because they wanted to make money. Others got into it because they thought that independence was going to come within a few seconds, within a few days, within a few months, and that they will, become the de facto, the leaders of Southern Cameroon, and they will transfer the tyranny they learned from La République onto our people. But God is not a man, and he doesn't do things the way we do them foolishly. So when I got here, some people invited me into a club, and I think I've shared this with you before, that there was what they call the House of Lords. The House of Lords was made up of people like Irene, Patience Abiedu, even Sama Thomas, who is squealing today, was part of the House of Lords, Dr. Tita. And it's a group of people, Dr. Tita, the pharmacist. I don't know, I've never met him, but they invited me to a meeting, and they told me that they were Sako's henchmen, and that they were making a monthly contribution of a certain amount to Sako, and that because their priority is that when Sako becomes president of Southern Cameroon, he'll give them contracts to build roads, hospitals, and give them favors that they will have priority. And now I asked myself, and that if I joined them, they were going to put me on an allowance, and I should help them to finish Sisiku, let Sisiku rot in jail. And I asked them, what has Sisiku done to us? And they said, no, they just don't want him to obstruct Sako's position because Sako has to be the president, not Sisiku. So I told them, I said, one, I was once in that jail. I know the conditions of that jail. Morally, it is wrong for you to wage such a fratricidal war against.
Doctor, this is a scoop. This is a scoop you have never said before.
No. I think I've shared it before. It's just that our people have a very brief memory. They easily forget. That is how I knew about the House of Lords. In fact, I was alarmed. When I came out of that meeting, I was sweating because, and I called these gentlemen, I'm sure I called them, and I lamented bitterly. I was so disappointed. I was devastated. At some point, I told them, I said, it's time to take a break from this struggle because we are not all together in this struggle for the same reason. And you will always find encouragement when you share your pains, when you share your worries. and we somehow were able to put ourselves together. But everybody who heard it was stunned. Some people did not believe me, but it is when the issue of the House of Lords and the comportment of people like Ngwa Irene fled out of proportion, that people now began to understand what I said. Even gentlemen like Eric Tato were once instrumentalized by Sako against me. I had to call Eric Tato to tell him certain things that I said only to Eric Tato, but which I'm ready to share now with the people of Southern Cameroons. In the course of after my release, I was under surveillance, and I met some people. As a teacher in the university, as a lecturer in the university, I have students whose parents are also in the army and who are in the forces of law and order, security, and so on. And in the course of my movement around, people got to tell me that our struggle has been infiltrated and that even people like Co are in direct collaboration with the government. They talk to the government. And even before I came here, I was made to understand that Dion Ngute had met with Sako, and it is his success in getting Sako to agree to torpedo our liberation struggle that John Ngute had the feather of prime minister. And when I told people who were close to, I've lost friends with whom I have friends I have known for many years because I shared this information with them and they wouldn't believe. And so I learned in my life to keep, and I have even worse information which will only appear in my memoir, where I will be able to quote the people who gave me such information. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is that our struggle for freedom has been infiltrated by weevils, rodents, and all kinds of pests, which, because of our, I don't know how to term it, because we have been so complacent, we let these things happen. We let these people cause our people to die. But I think as time is going on, the implosion has begun. The very Sama Thomas who made an audio castigating Sako Ikome Samuel is the very Sama Thomas, I think Mr. Ato can confirm. He came into one town hall and gave me a dressing down. When I told him the things that I said, he doubted, but a few days ago, he was the one describing the thief in Sako. So it is to tell you that there is a character they call a revolutionary discipline. If you lack revolutionary discipline, you cannot be part of a liberation struggle. Revolutionary discipline means that you must control your appetite. It means that any inordinate desire, whether it is women, whether it is money, whether it is lifestyle, anything you know will compromise the forward march to freedom, you have to suppress it or you step out. And our people from now onwards should start doing background checks of the people they call up to serve in this liberation struggle. I say it with a lot of pain because we have people in prison. We don't know the day they are going to come out. Some are dying, some are sick, some are in pains. And I heard somebody tell another person in prison that she prays, that was Gertrude Kisop. She said, I pray you rot in jail. These are people who conduct kidnappings, they collect ransom, and some of the ransom comes to them in the United States. I am sick in my spirit because our people have let these things happen. And when some of us told them that we are being taken for a ride, they did not understand. They felt that it was a fight for power. I want to declare here that I don't have any political ambitions. I don't have any political ambitions. My friends, the colleagues with whom I work, those with whom I'm in the struggle, they know. If I am even the Secretary General of the Alliance today, it is because I just had to be. But if I find somebody who can perform the task with verve, with determination, with zeal, with the kind of gusto that is needed, I am ready to step back and walk behind the curtains because that is what I know how to do best. So let our people.
Yes,
who are-
doctor, let's stop you a little so that you can drink some water. We know there is a lot in the bucket to release. Comment actor, yes, and we have also Dr. Edmond there listening. We understand that this is a big topic. This is a topic that we need so many replays to get along with. But there are certain facts, because some of us have been talking about these ills within our revolution for a while, and some people accuse us to hate others, to hate Sako, maybe because we hate Sako. Why do you have to hate a human being? There is no reason for hating a human being. We need to be able to dissect, like what Dr. Fontem has said, to have that revolutionary character, especially that of truth, that of speaking out, that of saying how things have to be. And that even if many people want to follow the lie, you will stand up for the truth. Dr. Edmond, we've been discussing these things on many occasions. Please just add some small pepper on what Dr. Fontem has just said.
I'll just say, one thing before I move to that question. One of the things that Pintem can come back and correct me if I'm wrong. One of the things that they wanted to crucify Ayuk for was that Ayuk met with the director of civil cabinet at the presidency in jail. And it turned out communications came from so himself, and there was evidence, text evidence that was shared to us, that we also got the phone calls that he had with that same person. And then he is in jail. Our comrade is in jail, and in the place where the people in the country have the keys, that they can walk in at any time and tell him that we want to talk to him, and he will not be able to say no because they have the keys to his jail. But this guy is sitting out here in the diaspora and actually cozying in his chair. The same person is doing the same, what he considers a crime worthy of crucifixion of the other person to him, who has the chance to be able to say no, and he doesn't. So it was just one of those things when I saw, I kind of like had it was quite revolting. So when you see what is happening within the so-called PIX IG, as has become Pastor IG or whatever people want to use that acronym to be, you can see that this was always destined to be this. And I knew from the get-go. I always say to people, the system is the medium through which oppression is actually carried out. Without a system, individuals are just agents of oppression. They function through a system. If you build ships and there is no sea, there is no water, those ships cannot actually move, right? So the problem is go after the system. Don't go after and then the individuals would be taken care of. So what we need to fight are the structures that are actually in place that allow this kind of cabal, that allow the low lives, the most morally depraved, to actually be the ones who are sent to power just because they can preach, just because they can talk, just because they can make, they're so morally depraved that they really lack that, moral, burden that would, hold you down if you wanted to talk ill of your own brother, or if you wanted to do anything that would hurt your brother or your sister and stuff like this. This is the problem we have, that the system itself, we should look after the system. We have to always remember that Hitler did not become Chancellor of Germany by a coup d'etat. He became president through the same institutions, and once he got there, he appropriated those institutions because he knew without the institutions, he would never have committed the crimes that he committed. And it turned out, Hermann Goering and Papon, who were actually there, they thought they could use Hitler just to get there to do their own bidding. But when he got there, he had the institutions of state. He outsmarted them, and all of them were now everybody knows what what the story is. Ambazonia has to wake up. The structures as they are currently constituted in the so-called interim government or stuff, these structures cannot lead us anywhere. They can only actually allow the most degenerate to become, to usurp power. We can only allow false prophets to reign. And the same thing with most of the structures I see now. So we have to go back to the drawing board and begin to ask ourselves, how do we put structures in place that would allow for us to actually to make sure that any one person cannot really appropriate our struggle. They cannot hijack the desire of the people, because the people always will what is right, but they can often be deceived as we see it. And the one bad thing that all of us have also got to think about is, if I just sit here, Fontaine will tell you that we've had our own discussions and our own, fights at the back end. All right. Ato will tell you the same, because there are things that if we have a fundamental disagreement, we will debate at the back end until we are able to converge on something that is true, on something that is the right thing. If you don't do that, when he came and we organized the conference that was organized in DC, which was actually the first attempt to actually bring the people of Southern Cameroons together, and we succeeded in bringing them to one room. But again, you can bring all of them to one room, but you cannot unite them, right? Because their minds are not. So this is, he would know that meeting, there were several conversations we had, and I had to let him go through with some people in Boston, with some people in the different regions around the world, around the country, to have him talk to them and have them ask him the tough questions that he had to answer. And when they organized that conference, the first thing was turn over the ownership of that conference to the people, right? So that the people were the ones who decided on the agenda, not him. The people would be the ones. He sat on the resolutions committee with me and other people, but the resolutions were taken by the people. And from there on, that's the things that needs to be done. So the freedom, the people, the thinkers can think for the glory of thinking, not because they want to tomorrow be ministers or be presidents and stuff like that. The fighter fights for the glory of fighting, for the glory of the flag, not because you want to really you want them to become a defense minister and things like that. So, but again, I say the structures, we have to go back to the drawing board. In its current construct, we are not there. And we'll continue to do this. We'll call people out. Any person who is doing anything that doesn't conform to actually that doesn't look at it, that's not in the interest of Southern Cameroonians, we will call them out. But the current structures really need reform. They need rethink. People who are actually within that structure, even as it's falling down, are thinking that they can, like the breakaway fractions of the Chris Anus and the Abongwas and whatever. If they think that they can go and reconstitute the same garbage, all of them are in the same boat. All of them should actually have been able to apologize to Amazonia and step down. That's pure, simple. So let's think about how we can move ahead. But again, think about structure. Don't concentrate on individuals. Individuals will always fail you, but the structures.
Thank you, Doctor. Yes, talking about structures to do reforms, people, there must be a kind of truth and reconciliation. That is very important. We have all highlighted how we must first of all speak out about what was not going well, and then try to assimilate people, bring them together for truth and reconciliation. Those who are willing to continue, those who are willing to work with others, we shall work together. I think time has also come for Southern Cameroons to have a large conference, for people to sit down, be it virtual, be it real, to sit down and plan the way forward. Comrade Ato, where I wanted you to talk on is, how do we really get people coming together, putting aside their pride and coming together to accept what is important for our revolution?
That's where I think the structures Dr. Edmond was talking about comes in. Our people, we are very strong-headed, and sometimes they say experience is the best teacher. So we have learned for 5 years that everything we have around us, or what people thought were genuine structures in place to lead us, were not. But the thing is, majority of our people, just by nature, are not politically savvy. And so 95, 96, 97% of the people are waiting to see. And I don't think that we are going to get the same people who led us into this mess, get us out of the mess. It's like expecting Biya after 40 years to suddenly be a savior. That is who he is. So we have to take the initiative. We cannot, as you said, we have to talk about solutions. We cannot just say these structures are bad and we need new structures, or we need to go to the drawing board. We have to come up with new structures to lead this, and let our people know that we have tried this for 5 years, it didn't work. Let's try this. If it doesn't work for a year, then we have reason to say, okay, maybe the other thing was better. But you need something else to compare, and somebody has to do it. And I like the way things are going. For example, we have the Civil Society Network, which is a structure focused on humanitarian. They are not doing diplomacy. They are not trying to lead the fighters. They are not trying to lead communication. They are taking care of the refugees, the internally displaced, and our prisoners of conscience. They have done a marvelous job, bar none. And I am not denigrating or degrading what other humanitarian organizations are doing. But the CSOs, for now, Southern Cameroonians can rest assured that, okay, we have a structure that is focused on humanitarian. How do we build on that structure? Then there is work being done. We have seen that people have used our fighters, made them do videos, use it to raise money and swindle that money. How do we build a structure that interfaces our fighters directly with Southern Cameroonian donors, the benefactors themselves? There is work on the War Relief Fund, which will be a platform that will compel the fighters to work as a commander's house and interface with Southern Cameroonians who will donate into one pot. And there will be transparency. There will be no political intermediaries. And as Dr. Edmond says, we have to depoliticize our fighters. And how do we do that? We take the politicians out of the source the fighters depend on to carry our struggle. So if we can get Southern Cameroonians to rally around the War Relief Fund, which is on the DAC platform, and encourage our fighters who are already building the unity force and a commander's house to interface directly with the donors transparently, we have created another structure that has taken the politicians out. There is also work on a diplomatic front, people who are focusing and strategizing on diplomacy. And when they are ready, they will bring to the Southern Cameroonian people what they are doing and how that structure works. And it's for us to rally around them. And like SCBC and other platforms are doing, we can get specific people who would focus on communication and help build these communication platforms so that each person or each group or each category is focused. And we are not relying on these old structures of PIGS IG or governing council or whatever they call themselves, but the people themselves now have alternatives to take their own destiny into their hands. The CSOs, for example, are preparing a 2021 report, which they will bring at the town hall to present to the people of Southern Cameroon, especially the donors, exactly what they did with footage and reports and accounts. That's the transparency we want. The War Relief Fund will do the same thing. How much money was raised, what was given to the commander's house, the commanders will attest to what they received and how it was used. That's a new structure. So we need to get out of this bad habit we've learned from La République of personality cults and politicizing everything we do, and begin to rally around structures that are built by the people and for the people of Southern Cameroon.
Thank you, Comrade Ato.
Chair, it just so we quickly get
yes,
back
Dr. Kame, just a second, then Doctor, you continue. I just want to highlight the point that somebody might think that Comrade Ato is saying that politicians should disappear. I think that's far away from what he is saying. What he is saying is politics must be slim and politicians must learn to work together, just like how other structures are reorganizing themselves. Over to you, Dr. Edmond.
Yes, so just I wanted that was one point, but the other point that Mr. Ato just made, which are very important things, is that to collaborate, finished up that idea about structure. In terms of security, there once was a time, the very early days, when this a lot of these charlatans have not really corrupted the institutions. There was something that used to be called, there was a structure that used to be called the ASC, and all of us knew that. And that structure actually had some security folks from here, people who are trained here as military, because Ambazonia is heavily talented. And people who were trained at home, we have our own, we are at war, our people are dying. We have so many Ambazonians who were trained, who were military in La République, and some of them who are actually outside in the diaspora. Some of these people used to do was just actually like get to talk with their counterparts, with the fighters on the ground, not collecting money. So you can have a team like that of professionals who are actually talking with them, not giving them directives, but actually, collaborating with them so that they can provide a different angle. So like communication, we have very seasoned journalists actually amongst us Ambazonians who can help us build communication, resource mobilization. Those of us who go out to raise money and bring money, don't raise the money, don't collect the money yourself. You raise the money, you tell people where to raise the money, and then the people who are separate people who collect the money then report to the people of Ambazonia. So these structures really become critically important so people understand. And anybody who tells you about secrecy, oh, we cannot do this, we cannot do that, that person is really, it's just a synonym, is synonymous to, it's just an excuse for them to pillage our resources. That's the only problem. That's the only point I just wanted to add on the elaborate, the very succinct things that Atom mentioned. So the people of Ambazonia listening to this conversation understand that there are structures in place and people can, contribute whichever way they want.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Edmond. I would like to. Doctor, just a preamble, please. Dr. Fontaine, just a preamble. I just want our viewers to understand that we've been here for over 1 hour. We were supposed to start some 2 hours ago because of some technical hitches. We started a bit late. We may not be able to, to wrap up every topic we would have wanted, but I think it is fair to inform them that we will do a repeat of this program. We will do another repeat, to explore different angles about our revolution. Doctor, we are going to talk also today about the Coalition for Dialogue, which has also been doing some activities and taking some initiatives like that of Toronto, where some activists and politicians across the spectrum were invited. Here I want you would comment also on what you wanted to say, and then connect also on this, your opinion of what the CDN, the Coalition for Dialogue, CDN, is doing.
Yes. Before I get into that, let me say that I will beg to disagree a bit with Dr. Edmond for on the issue of uh, calling out people. I think that some of the evil that has persisted in this liberation struggle only did so because we were describing it and not calling names. And I think the earlier we start calling people out for the things they are doing, the better for us. Because all the bitcoins that people have been buying with draft money and all the money that people have been collecting, donating, we have pensioners here in the United States who are donating money for this liberation struggle. That money does not go to refugees, it doesn't go to the IDPs, it doesn't go to the restoration forces. That money goes to buy bitcoins, and people have bought bitcoins in the names of their children, their wives. And when we said this thing, it was like the hell broke loose. The very people who were denouncing us for saying it are the ones now. They have become a trumpet section of this whole thing. They are the ones now shouting it all over the market. And who will believe? Well, how do you expect people to? The only reason why people believe is because they had heard it before. And now, I also want to tell those people that nobody trusts them again. So they had better pack their things and go home. Because when the evil was going on, they helped to abet it, they helped to prop it up, and it persisted. And the only reason why some people are quarreling now in this liberation struggle is because they have collected money and some people have carted that money away. And that's the only reason why there is a problem now. So the people of South, let us make it a point, because that is how some of us did our student activism. That is how some of us became leaders in our professional unions, and that's how some of us prosecuted this liberation struggle when it started. We were frank, we were honest, and we did not touch what did not belong to us. In fact, we preferred to sacrifice what we had. And so many people have sacrificed their livelihoods. Some have sacrificed their lives. And we cannot be joking and claiming that we will attack the institutions and leave the individuals who are using the institutions to destroy our struggle. So the earlier we tell the individuals hiding behind the institution that we are seeing your finger, we are seeing you step out, you thief, and we let their wife know that this is what they have done. We let their children know that their father is a thief. People will now begin to wake up. Because if we don't, then we are in for a very, very long run. Now, let me very quickly say, and I think I'm happy that on this platform we have Edmond and Ato, who were present when the Coalition for Dialogue came and started. We were among those who we had serious discussions, and we shared their vision. We shared their vision, and we saw that the Coalition for Dialogue could be a very viable instrument through which La Republique could be brought to the negotiation table. Our understanding, or my understanding of the CDN at that time, was that it was an international outfit which had Southern Cameroonians, and which had, for the most part, there are many there are international personalities within the advisory board and so on. So it means that with people of such stature, you can do significant things and put things right, both, and wake La Republique up from their slumber. Whatever thing that they have gotten into, they may not have done it knowingly. So there is a way you can do it, and I think the meeting in Toronto was worthwhile. It was worthwhile because for some time we had been asking politicians or heads of political organizations to meet. I want to say, and for the record, that I was invited, but I couldn't make it. And I did share my perspective. I did say that I had expectations from the meeting. I expected the meeting to come up with a framework, and I think I agree. The Dr. Edmond and Mr. Atto would also agree with me that at the level of the town hall, we also, although the town hall could not attend for diverse reasons, different people had different engagements at that time. It's important to note that when the meeting was scheduled, we it was based on, as we were made to understand, the majority had decided that it would be at that time, and it was not convenient for some. So, but we did give our blessings, and we expect that at some point the framework that has emanated from that meeting can be used to foster the unity of purpose that we have been drumming for so long. So we expect that after that Toronto was just the start, and that the leaders of political organizations who met in Toronto should have used that to continue having their own meetings. That should have provided the impetus for continuous consultation. But somehow I am observing that, I think I should not be the only one observing it, that ever since the meeting in Toronto, some groups that were in Toronto, some organizations that were in Toronto have concentrated their assault on other groups. The attacks have become so public, so mediatized. Everything is just, I don't think that the relationship between the IG Care and the AGOVC, who were party to that, who attended that meeting, really tells us that the retreat, had a significant effect on their collective psyche. So I think that there is something that needs to be done, and our people need to understand that the issue of collaboration and unity is indispensable. Nobody's going to do this thing alone, and that if there's anything that the coalition can do in that respect, because I see them gradually becoming the spokesperson and the front of the Southern Cameroon's liberation struggle. But if I were to analyze it strategically, when you are so immersed with one party in a conflict, then it will be difficult for them to be able to stretch their hand out and bring in La Republique as the coalition, unless they're going to use a third party. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dr. Edmond and Comrade Atto. I would want to inform all of us that we are going to close this conversation in 5 minutes. We have so much to talk about, but we might do that in another sitting. I want to thank all of you for your contributions. Dr. Fontem, you who have come out from the mouth of the lion, you were in Kondengi, be it at the central and principal prisons. You know what is happening there. So we want to thank you for your courage, that you have continued to be an activist in this revolution, because it is a God-ordained revolution. If any person says something different, they are making a mistake. It is a God-ordained revolution. The things of God, we don't see them from people who carry loudspeakers. We see them from people who believe, who have faith, who have passed through thick and thin. And you are an example we have in our midst. Outside, God alone knows how you came out. God alone knows, but we know that God knows how he does his things. And you came out. Your friend, your comrade, Congo, was with you. He has become a federalist. He has chosen to be a federalist. We are going to talk also about these issues on federalism and our revolution in the next session we shall have. We shall talk about so many things. There are so many things to talk about in this 2022 so that we get back online with how we started. Doctor, there is much. I want to remind Dr. Fontem that Dr. Edmond didn't say we shouldn't call out people. Maybe you didn't get him, but it was still good again that you emphasized on the fact that we call out people who do wrong, who do damage, because the damage somebody will do for this revolution will affect so many lives. And we have seen that damage. Many lives have been taken in the past years because of the divisions and the manipulations we've seen in our revolution. I would allow all of you a minute of conclusion, and then we close the conversation. We'll start with Comrade Ato.
Well, Chairman Frank, thank you for this panel discussion.
Can technical team put off the sound first? Thank you. All right, Comrade Ato, just right on place.
Okay, I wanted to thank you, Chairman Frank, for the opportunity to be part of this debate, and also thank my fellow panelists, Dr. Fontem and Dr. Edmond. We need to continue having such educative and informative discussions. We need to keep hope alive. I will bet on the side of the people of Southern Cameroons, a resilient people, a determined people, and we look forward to another discussion as you have promised, Chairman Frank. Again, thank you for making me a part of this discussion.
Thank you for coming. Dr. Edmond.
So, yeah, thank you, Frank. And I would join Ato in saying the same thing, that we need to really continue to have more of this conversation. You could hear, like my friend Kintem would say, you know, maybe he overheard something he thought I said, you know, to say, hey, look, we shouldn't call out people. And then on the air, he would tell me, no, I have to say no, I have to disagree. And those are the kind of friends I like to have around. So even if it was something that I had actually said, rightly or wrongly, I like them to call me out, so we kind of like take a position. And so that brings me to a larger position where Southern Cameroons, Ambazonians, we are not a monolith. We have a divergence of views. In fact, as a matter of fact, we must celebrate that divergence. Those are the underpinnings of democracy. But along that must actually goes with a kind of education. The education in a democracy, in a thriving democracy, is what we call, as some of the famous thinkers in this would call, the problem-solving method of education rather than the banking kind of education, which means our people in Ambazonia must look at problems, critically analyze them, reflect, and then find solutions to them. But we must remember, as I've said, unity of purpose would actually have to go, be the primordial. It must be our guiding philosophy. And I don't actually even want to talk about federalists or independentists. I want to talk about freedom. And so that because within that context, some people may still well believe that they can achieve, if they still well believe that they can achieve freedom through federalism, through federation, they should tell us how. How you can do that for now when you have not been able to do it in 60 plus years. And so some of us, and those of us that are fighting for freedom, I hear even some people think about the concentrate on independence, and they will tell you, to get independence, we need a dictator, we need some kind of a benevolent dictator. Those are con men. Again, if you're thinking about freedom, I want to win the war and win the peace. So my destination as freedom really tells me that independence is a means. It's not an end unto itself. And that's why I will not support dictatorship. And I call on the people of Ambazonia not to line up, not to be fooled by any tyrant who actually comes here and deceive the people that they can lead you to independence. Because if they get to independence and you don't think about what is thereafter, which is the freedom, they will get to independence and then turn us into another, tyrannical state, which we don't want. So let's think about it, and we shall overcome. As like Arthur said, I have no doubt about it. But La Republique must know that for those of us, for all Amazonians, we have conquered the most important enemy. Our most important enemy was never La Republique. It was fear. And that we have conquered. And La Republique is a lesser enemy, and we shall overcome. Thank you.
Dr. Fontaine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Edmond.
Yeah, thank you very much, my good friends and co-panelists. I think I am very, very grateful for this opportunity to share views and to exchange and look at these issues from different perspectives. That is the beauty of a sound mind. That is the beauty of a free society. I think when I look at the way we ought to live life and I see how we are living it, I believe that if we stick to the vision, we will eventually get to what we aspire to. I always like to quote from the Bible, which says that without a vision, the people perish. We need to stick to our vision, and the vision is a free Southern Cameroons where people will have the right to good education, where people will have the right to good health care, where our children will be able to live happily with their peers, and where we will be able to provide for each other and love each other and live happily ever after. So as we go home tonight, let the people of Southern Cameroons realize that this liberation struggle is their struggle, and we will give in everything that we can to make sure that our people and we ourselves do the right thing that will take us to where we are heading to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. I want to thank Heritage TV for hosting this program. We want to thank all our viewers also. It's been a while. We want to beef up 2022 to be the year wherein we interact with each other. I want to thank people who have contributed for this struggle till date. Many people are fighting it from different angles. I also want to encourage those who have been who are planning for a referendum to take place in the Southern Cameroons. I want to greet those who are in prisons in Cameroon, especially our leadership, which is in jail from the NERA 10. We wish all of them well, and we want to remind them that we are going to fight for them to come out, and that we shall all come out together, because their coming out shall also be our coming out. We shall join ourselves together again, and in that free and fair nation that we are looking forward to. Comrades, it's been great. It's been a nice day. We wish you a good evening, a good afternoon, wherever you are in the Atlantic. And we look forward to having another session like this. Thank you very much for inviting me to present this program. I was very delighted, and I think I will be excited to have another one. Thank you. Goodbye.
Beseba kwai, se kwai no ba kwai.